Chapter 8. Blake pulled into Alexis's driveway that afternoon. He saw his sister Elsa sitting in the swing on the porch, wiping her eyes with the sleeves of her sweater. Blake parked and slowly approached her, formulating what he was going to say once he got to her. As he closed in, she was sniffling, and her shoulders rose and fell. "Elsa, what's wrong?" His little sister looked up at him, makeup running down her cheeks, and said, "Blake, what are you doing here?" "I'm home," Blake said, holding his arms out. Elsa sniffed and smiled. She got up and gave him a big hug before pulling away and falling back into the swinging chair and pulling a blanket up over her shoulders. "I broke up with my boyfriend. Well, he dumped me." A boyfriend? She was 14. Blake wasn't sure what to say. Well, he must not have been a good boy if he broke your heart." Elsa frowned before bursting into tears. "Don't worry, sis. You'll find a new boy when you're much older." Blake sat down on the porch swing next to Elsa and slipped his arm around her shoulders. "When I was your age, I thought I knew who I was going to marry. She was my best friend, and I thought we'd have a good life together." "Who, Shayna?" Elsa asked. "No, not Shayna. I started dating her after I was sure I didn't have a chance with the girl I really liked." "So she was your second choice?" "Stop being insightful," Blake said, gently elbowing Elsa. A smirk crept onto her face. "I loved Shayna. She wasn't my second choice. When I came to terms with the fact that I couldn't have the girl of my dreams, I moved on. It was the right thing to do. I know life may seem long now, but the older you get, the more you realize that time flies." "Do you miss her?" "No. Things went bad for us, and I'm glad it's over. We had little in common." Elsa seemed to give Blake's words some thought. He was impressed she was taking what he said seriously. "So outside of your boyfriend ending your relationship, what else is going on?" "It's gone. Mom's gone. I don't know how to feel about it. Mom and Dad fight a lot. They seemed thrilled to be together, and then they weren't." That's the way it always seems, Blake thought, but it's never that simple. "How long has Mom been gone?" "Lately, she's been taking time away from us. She says it's too hard to be here most of the time. Dad is sad without her, but he did something to Mom. This time, she's been gone for a week," Elsa said. Blake felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. "What did he do to Mom?" Elsa shrugged. "I don't know, but it's bad." He was relieved that Elsa wasn't aware of whatever was going on with their parents, but it broke his heart to know how in tune with their problems she was. "I'm sorry this is happening. Sometimes things between adults get complicated." "Not just adults. People clash all the time. Just because I'm 14 doesn't mean I don't understand." "Fair enough. But do yourself a favor. Don't grow up too soon. I wish I'd cherished those days when all I had to worry about was homework and dances." Elsa smiled and said, "Life must have been easier back then. Life is crazy nowadays." "I'm sure it is. But I want to help bring some stability back to your life." "Oh, really? How?" Elsa said. "I'm here to take you and the boys home." Elsa's brow creased. "Mom's not there." "Wait, is Mom home?" "No, but I'll be there." She sighed and pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Blake noticed how unsure his sister looked. Clearly, she had doubts about whether he could provide accurate care. Blake had been 15 when Elsa was born. He and Alexis helped their parents with their 3 younger siblings, but after he left for the military, he'd only visited a few times. Of course, they always had their video chats, but they'd always presented what they wanted to share in those interactions. The reality of their lives never made it to the screen. "Don't worry. Mom will be back soon. I just want you and the boys to be able to go home." "And Alexis wants us out." Blake smiled. "She's got a family." Elsa shrugged. Blake was saddened by how tired she sounded. Alexis's husband, Doug, appeared in the doorway. "Don't forget the 2 in here." "I won't. Hi, Doug." "Hey, welcome back," he said, leaving the doorway. Blake headed inside the house. He was surprised to see the place was in disarray. His sister was standing up in the kitchen, her phone tucked between her shoulder and the side of her face. Her sons, Chris and Patrick, were running in a circle around her. Luke and Lane were tossing a tennis ball back and forth between one another. Doug took a seat on the couch in the living room and flicked through the television channels. "Luke and Lane, stop it," Blake said. The boys continued tossing the ball and laughing. Blake's nephews ran to him and grabbed hold of his legs. "Uncle Blake!" Patrick yelled. Alexis covered the mouthpiece of the phone. "Be quiet, please. This is an important call." Blake bent down and grabbed his nephews into his arms while quietly asking them to lower their voices. "But we're happy to see you," Patrick said in a loud whisper. "I'm glad to see you guys as well, but we need to be quiet for Mommy." His nephews nodded. "Thanks, Blake," Alexis whispered. No one else could see that I was on the phone. She ended her sentence with a yell in Doug's direction. Sorry, darling. I thought this was a zoo, Doug said, pushing buttons on the remote control with extreme force. Luke and Lane started roughhousing again. Boys! Blake yelled. Alexis rushed out of the door. Everyone else stopped and looked at him. Luke and Lane, get your things and get ready. He gently put his nephews back on the ground. And you two need to clean up for your mom, okay? And Doug? What? I'm sorry that things have been hard. I'm sorry I haven't been here. It's not all on you, man. Let us know if you need help. We'll still be here, Doug said. I know, but I want to do my part. The boys rode in the back of the truck while Elsa sat quietly in the truck cab. After arriving home, the four headed into the empty house. I'll have dinner ready shortly, Blake told them. The three teens headed into the kitchen, sat at the table, and waited. Blake went to the refrigerator, scanned the contents, and started to envision what he could throw together for dinner. When is Mom coming back? Luke asked. She's not, Elsa replied. Elsa, why would you say that? Who told you that? Blake asked, hoping that it wasn't one of their parents. I just know, she said. Don't think like that, Elsa. Why don't you guys fill me in on all the town gossip? I've been away for a long time. What's friendly like these days? Is Lucian your son? Luke asked. Blake turned to face his siblings. Their eyes were wide with curiosity. Clearly, this was a rumor going around town. Maribel was my friend in high school. She's someone I care about, so I tried to support her when she was, well, you know, pregnant. You can say it. We all know what it is and how it happens, Lane said. I'm sure you do. Listen, I am not Lucian's father. I'm sure some people think Maribel and I were more than friends, but we weren't. We went our separate ways before Lucian was born. Mom and Dad got married young. Why didn't you marry Maribel instead of joining the army? Elsa asked. Blake laughed. That's not really how it works. Usually you have to date someone before you marry them, and they have to agree to the arrangement. Maribel was my friend. That's it. How long are you going to be here? Lane asked. I'm back for good. Really? Elsa said, her eyes lighting up. Yeah, I'm here for the foreseeable future. We've got some old trucks we've been working on, Luke said. Is that an invitation? Blaine asked. Yes, Lane said, a big smile creeping onto his lips. Sometimes Lucian comes over and works with us, Luke added. Blake's brothers and sister stared at him. Clearly they still had questions about Lucian. Okay, tell me what you've heard about me, Maribel and Lucian. I heard you left right after Lucian was born. You went to basic training, and the plan was to build a life in the army and send for Maribel and Lucian. But you fell in love with Shayna, married her, and abandoned Maribel and Lucian. Blake held up an index finger, but Elsa continued. I also heard you're back to fix things with Maribel. If she agrees to have you back, you're going to swoop in and move her and Lucian to a big city somewhere. But since you abandoned her, I don't think she wants to be with you. Is this what you kids talk about in high school these days? Hey, it's a small town. We've barely got internet, Elsa said. Okay, here's the story, Blake said before realizing he couldn't tell them everything without betraying Maribel. Actually, I'll tell you what I can. I always wanted to join the army, and that was my plan from middle school on. Maribel and I hung out a lot, but we were just friends. Mar got pregnant and decided she was done with high school things, which was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, I was one of those high school things that she decided to get rid of. One night, I was getting on her nerves, I guess, and she told me to leave her alone for good. I respected her wishes. Before I left for the army, I started dating Shayna. We went to prom and were together until I left. We continued to date after that, and eventually our long-distance relationship got more serious and we got married. You didn't want a ranch? Luke asked. Blake shook his head. Here's a secret. I hate ranching. Confused looks passed between the three. You hate ranching? Elsa asked. Her eyes were wide. It's not for me. I like a city with stores and shops and places to go. And don't get me started on the smells, Blake said. He always hated it here. Everyone in the kitchen stared at the doorway. Dad! No, go on, son. Tell him how this life wasn't good enough for you. I don't think he meant it that way, Elsa said. Their father looked at her. You're too young to remember how much he hated it here. He's back now. Yeah, but it makes me wonder why he's come back. If it's to change things, forget it. Friendly is friendly. This fancy restaurant idea ain't going to change our town.